know about me than what you asked for. What you asked for? Check my resume, bitch, I've been that man. Now what you asked for? Now what you asked for? If you don't get it, I done done it, motherfucker, who want it? You can walk around this town, but we the ones who run it. And you can walk around this town.
My next guest has worked with artists such as Wu-Tang, Benny the Butcher, Corrupt, Planet Asia, Crooked Eye, and many, many more. A long list that we went into, take up the whole interview. He's about to release his new EP, Toledo. He's an A&R extraordinaire and an MC, of course. He's M80, and I want to welcome him to the library with Tim Einenkel. Thanks for being back on the show, man.
And the crowd goes wild, I tell you. Woo. Thank you, Timmy.
Thank you for being here, man. So, of course, it's the name of the EP is Toledo. So you're presenting. I feel like you're presenting Toledo to the world. Obviously, not many people know about the hip hop scene in Toledo. So, if you can, just kind of break it down to us, like what is the hip hop scene there, and what should people know that they don't know?
When I meet girls that say their boyfriends do anything but rap, I'm like, get out of here. There's a lot of rappers in Toledo. A lot, tons. And, Toledo borders Detroit. And, of course, that spills over to Detroit or vice versa. Maybe Detroit spills over to Toledo. But there's a hefty music culture here in Toledo. I was born and raised in Toledo before my family moved to Indianapolis. So, yeah, I just, I have a lot of roots here and a lot of love for where I come from. We did the Glass City album in 2012, and we always wanted to do a Glass City 2, but as far as my artist projects, like the next M80 album and the third installment of Almighty at Glass City, everything artist-wise for me, including me finishing my book, was put on the back burner. The more and more client albums and works I have to pick up, for the likes of the artists you named in the intro. So a lot of the albums that we were planning on releasing for 2019, like, first new Rakim project in forever, and Benny, and members of Wu-Tang, and Bishop Lamont, and Crooked Eye, and things like that. A lot of artists, I'd say half of them are on their game and the projects are coming out, and the other half are still taking time with their writing. So if I finally had a niche and a window just to be like, okay, I can work on some stuff for me right now, while everyone else is writing and, taking their sweet time. So I was in the Midwest a few months ago and just knocking out tracks, and the idea came together in one of our last sessions. Like, let's not try to overthink this and spend years making the perfect album. Let's take all these songs I've done with these Toledo artists that were unreleased and let's go.
As you mentioned, the Toledo artists that you do feature, I mean, there's two of them off the bat, is Gifted and Fifth Element.
Yes, and we just shot the video for Done It yesterday, so we're hoping to get that out Thursday in line with the Toledo listening party.
Nice. Well, as I mentioned, you wear many hats in this industry, right?
Yes,
so you do have the kind of you have the gift, I guess, to say that you also you spot talent. What for these two artists I just mentioned, what as an A&R guy, what impresses you most about them, and then as a fellow MC, what impresses you most about them?
From a personal standpoint, I like Gifted because he's always been the guy in town that everyone fears, and I'm like, damn, that's awesome. Because not only that's big in say New York and Cali, and it's awesome to see it on a small scale. That's the man everyone fears, and he's dope too. So it's okay, cool, double threat kind of. Fifth is up and coming in the battle scene and has just been destroying it. So they're close. The two of them are close, and it's the last time, I guess one of the times I was in town finishing, working on some of these songs. It's hey, let's get in and do this track together. And then Gifted and I had worked previously on the Glass City record. But their combination together is just flawless to me. They could do an album together. That would probably be one of the biggest things in the city, if not further. And I feel good that, me doing this project is helping bolster their name to larger markets. Having done it playing on Shade 45 and Dash Radio and various other radio FM and whatnot, the interviews I've done and things like that. It's been great, and I know they're extremely appreciative. Other artists that were on the Toledo EP, like Philippe, I had A&R'd his album that came out, I think, around 2012. The Indicted LP was a humongous record for the city of Toledo. Really let people know they could do bigger things than just like, the local records. Philippe's album had like monstrous production and features from the likes of Gucci Mane and Cameron and Young Buck and so on and so forth. So yeah, and Verbal I've known for the longest. He produced a good bulk of the Toledo EP. Runs a studio in town. We recorded the album called Fat Sound Records. And he's partners with my partner Anno Domini, Adrian, who runs the whole Anno Domini Nation and stuff. And Anno is based out of the United Kingdom, and in the past few years he's been a resident of Los Angeles. So we can work closer together.
Oh, you mentioned Verbal. Verbal, not just, as you said, produced a bunch of the EP, but he's featured on a few of the tracks.
Yeah, he raps as well, and he's regarded by some who are in the know as just like the city's best. Not from a rapping standpoint too, not just on the production. But like most great producers, he's kind of a recluse. So, it doesn't really bode too well for claims of anyone being the greatest at their craft. They're not really putting themselves out there. I mean, you got to really, in rap, unfortunately, we're not afforded with the, not being able to put a face with the name. People need to see you out there, making moves, doing what you're doing, to really want to get behind your art, to really want to get behind your movement. And that's just, one of the unfortunate things that comes with our culture. People in rock music or jazz or whatever other genre of music never really faltered from that stigma. But in rap, it's like the fans and everyone really needs to put a name with a face for them to identify with wanting to be behind your product.
Mm-hmm. I want to turn to Nino Gray. He's I really have grown to appreciate everything.
That's your boy.
Yeah,
that's
everything
your boy.
And he's on Lights Out right now. Also being one half of Glass City. Looking at your resume, and as I mentioned, you know talent, so there's no one can take that obviously away from you. What was your first reaction when and I should have asked you this when I first had you on, but what was your first reaction when you first heard Nino spit, and then kind of what stood out most to you?
When I first heard him rap in, 2010, 2011, I was like, I knew instantly. I'm like, this dude's amazing. We didn't know each other, personally. I mean, I think he knew who I was. And we linked up in town. I came and met him, I think, in his apartment. And then we just went to the studio one night on the whim, hey, let's go. We recorded the song Doubt Me that's going to be featured on DJ Bean's upcoming tape. She's putting a record out. That song never made the Glass City album. And I think the Glass City album to date for me is my favorite of all my artist projects. Just everything about it. I lived in Indianapolis at the time. Nino lived in Toledo. I would literally write to the skeletons of these tracks as I was making the 3-hour and change drive to Toledo every time. So I'm writing to drums and bass lines. That's it. Wow. Then we get to the studio and the producer's there with crafting the full tracks around the verses. So just the whole organic process of it all, added a whole new element of wow to me, because we were so used to with the previous M80 albums and how we make various other A&R products is the beats are submitted, but for the most part, not too much has changed. Elements are dropped out and added on. Maybe post-recording, but this was all being done in live real time. And so, from that record, we made sure the press was right. I think it gave Nino a real eye-opening experience to how the music business operates. A lot of artists go their entire career without ever grasping them.
What surprises, usually in your experience, what surprises the artist the most about the music industry?
What surprises them the most is how accountings are done and how royalties are divided and how artists are paid and things like that nature. I have artists, the main question I answer now on the admin side of things to artists I'm working with or want to work with me is basically how payments are divided and Why does someone like Jay-Z say, like, oh, you're still taking advances, huh? Still taking penitentiary chances, huh? Like, things like that, like, they don't get it, and I have to explain them. With someone like Jay-Z, who has all the money in the world,
Right.
doesn't need to go to any label or company or third party, whatever, and ask, like, what can you do for me right now? You know, unless it's like a Live Nation, Rock Nation deal, and they're giving them 150, 250 million, whatever. For the average artist that is approached by a label, whatever the advances they're offering, let's say 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever it is, there's usually a multiplier built into that without considering costs of like manufacturing and PR and all these other outside costs. There's this multiplier. And the multiplier is the fact that this label is a bank. There's interest on the money. There is label expenses like operating an office, staff, bills, things of that nature. So an artist will say, like, man, I just got $100K, and when I recoup this money, you know, I'm getting 50-50 or 70-30 or 60-40, whatever it is, and that's not the case. So when they find out on the, on the hard end, I guess, like, if a label advances you, let's say $100 grand, usually you're not seeing a dime of that until they recoup times 3, maybe times 3.5 when you have those other expenses. So the average artist that doesn't incorporate their attorneys and really learn to understand the business makes that $100 grand back, ideally, thinking that, cool, then they're going to start sharing in this profit share. That doesn't happen. Then they get disgruntled, and it's like, F the label, and things like that. You know, it's very overwhelming when you're new in the business and don't, like you thought the dream was going to be different than the reality.
Mm-hmm.
So thank God for me, I understand the dream and the reality, and I can move accordingly. But a lot of artists, really find that as a deterrent. And then there's the whole fact that like labels clearly offer, distributors, their job is to distribute records.
Right.
So they get their 20%, 30%, whatever they're going to take. Their job is really not to do too much other than make sure your records get to these carriers. They might put some marketing in there, great. Maybe some radio if you're a big ticket item, but that's not their job. Their underlying job as a distributor is to distribute. The labels, on the other hand, they're supposed to be the whole machine. We provide PR services, we provide marketing, we provide ad services, we provide outlets to radio. They can do it all, touring, whatever, if need be. And of course, that's reflected against artists' accounting. But a lot of artists get discouraged, like I'm saying, either when they learn that the accountings aren't coming back like they should, and then the next step for them is, well, I don't need the label, I'm going to do it myself. But then when they do it themselves, realize they don't have any of those resources. So it's like, I feel like you get screwed over by the label, then you screwed yourself by trying to do something that maybe a label could have made pop for you by doing it yourself, and then being like, crap, I really didn't understand what a hefty undertaking this was. So I'm kind of the guy in between all that business, advising artists what is the best look for them. Some artists have cult followings and can do the do-it-yourself stuff by themselves if they had to. Like when I worked heavily with cannabis, my current works with Planet Asia, like 9 out of 10 albums we do with Asia have record deals attached to them, but it's like if we had to do it ourselves, we know we can. We have that following. The Toledo EP doesn't make sense for me to sign to a label because it's like, look, here's my SoundScan history. This M80 album did 3,000 units. This did 5,000. This Almighty did 8,000. This did this. So it's like, okay, cool. If I can just appeal to 1,000 of these people, why would I want you to have 20%, 30%, 50%? So everything is staying in-house. I can account to the artist on the record, easily myself. Every online sale is logged. Every number goes to SoundScan. So it's like, my goal for this EP is to have it chart after the first week numbers come in on September 9th and really, make the people on the product, make the city of Toledo and my supporters, fans, family throughout the Midwest and everywhere else just proud of that another great feat on the M80 resume.
That's the thing. So you obviously just broke down the kind of the entire business aspect of the music industry, and then you have this thing where you obviously also could spit, like crazy. So what is that? Is there a surprise aspect to that when you kind of break it down to people and then you explain to them that no, I'm an MC as well? How surprised are they usually, and like what surprises them the most?
I mean, I've worked with Wu-Tang for like 15 years. and like actual work, like as A&R, not just on the artist side. The artist side is closer to 20. And I learned when I knew I wanted to be in the business of music, and I was still just M80 the artist. There's the only business I was handling at the time was my own business. I never led with that artist foot forward. So there's artists in Wu-Tang, like literally Master Killer at Sundance this past January. Like, I just found out that you rap. And I'm like, dude, we have songs together. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, but like that was like that was like a fluke to me. Like, he's like, you like rap, like have albums and tours, like and videos. And he's like, you're the Guinness Book of World Records. And it was hilarious because I'm like, I never led with that foot forward. So every person I've worked with has found out at their own, I guess, point in time through our work history that that's part of who I am. So it's like, everyone I've worked with, I could have had songs with. Like, every producer I've worked with, I could have been like, P-Rock, let me get on a joint. And I've had that leisure to do so. But the focus after I decided to become a successful person in the business of music was never to let me just take, from my melting pot and make me a bigger artist. And I think the Toledo EP is very evident of what I'm saying. Like, there's the most famous element of the Toledo EP is me. Which, pat myself on the back, whoop-de-doo. But it's like, on the other side of the token, I could make that album. I had Taking Back What's Mine in 2011, which was all my famous collabs and things like that. So you had RZA and Wu-Tang Clan and Rhyme Fest and who else saw that? Like Gucci Man, and, like that. So that's the opposite sides of the coin, opposite sides of the spectrum. But the goal for me was knowing that the main, the big money, the career longevity, all the greatness that comes with actually having a future in music came from being prominent in the business.
Why? I mean, that's interesting that you didn't lead with the I guess the MC foot when reaching out to these guys or working with these guys, because it seems like that is a good way into gaining a quote unquote trust with people or fellow artists if they know you've been there. So why did you you kind of touched on it, but why didn't you kind of consciously lead in with, hey, I'm an artist too, but I'm going to help you this way?
Some knew it. Like, when I met Wu-Tang, I was opening up for them. So, like, gradually I did shows with, like, everyone in Wu-Tang Clan, I think with the exception of RZA. RZA met me in the business first. So some people knew, off the bat, but I wanted them to take me serious. I didn't want them to just write, I didn't want it to be like, hey, I rap, you rap, like, we should work together. Because guess what? They have to hear that every day of their lives,
sure,
no matter where they go. And it's like, you're not remembering everyone. Like, everyone I work with that I've worked with for years, like, everyone on my roster I've worked with for over a decade, which is a good thing, because that speaks I'd like to assume it speaks high to my character, my quality of human being. But everyone can reflect on the past and be like, dude, I remember when I met you, like, as the rapper. And they appreciate the history of me in the mix more now, knowing that it's like, wow, you really worked your plan and your plan worked for you. Because, yeah, granted, we probably would not have taken you seriously or give you as much of our time and our light if we knew it was just on some artist,
right,
whatever. So my whole thing was like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I was, I'm in school. I study people like everyone does. Like, human beings are self-interested. So it was never about like, what can you do for me? It was like, this is what I can do for you.
Right.
And being cognizant and knowledgeable about their music. Like, I remember one time, me and my friend Larry, we were in a Red Band's Hotel in Chicago when we just finished the show. And Red just played I think 30, 40 old school records, like soul records, things like that. It was like, yo, quizzing me, like, what rappers, who sampled this? Da-da-da-da. I'm like, oh, Ghostface did this, or Biz Markie did this, or De La Soul did this. And it was just like, okay, like, you're knowledgeable, like, okay, let's work. So the point is, like, everything I've done has kept me sharp on the business side to ensure that my artists stay on point. Like, that's huge for me. Like, when I work with, say, like Kill Priest or a Wu-Tang or Bronze or, Crooked Eye, just every one of my artists I want to see make as much money as possible, have the best opportunities and looks as possible without diluting their brand, and really just, being happy with their craft at the end of the day.
I've been wanting to ask you this question for a while because I believe you have a different take on it. There's this argument or discussion about features and how, like, a lot of albums nowadays are, everyone, there's like every track has a feature, right?
Yeah, on the Toledo EP, yes.
No,
you're just saying in general.
No, yeah, but we're not. I understand. I understand why the Toledo EP has features. I'm just saying, in general, there seems to be a lot more features than I think when I was growing up.
Yeah,
as a kid. And there's an argument that kind of takes away from the artist, that the main artist on it. But I want to ask you the question of, what is, in your point of view, what's the benefit of having these features for not just the artist's album, but also the artists that are the features?
Features, again, like a double-edged sword. You really got to think it through. For upcoming artists, for independent artists, the features add two different things. One is the look to a label or a distributor. If you're an artist that has no SoundScan history, no BDS history, no tour history, but say a label or a label A&R thinks you have talent and they want to work with you, they can use at sometimes the strength of the artist's feature names and their kind of stats and history to help bolster opportunities for you and your project. If they're going to release it, if you've signed a record deal, things like that. So that's one. That's the business side. It's the business angle, like looking at it. Like, I want to make my project look attractive, audio and visually. The one sheet when I'm putting something together for labels consideration. Like, okay, well, so-and-so's name by itself doesn't mean anything to me, but, so-and-so worked with Slaughterhouse and has production from Alchemist and, whatever that might be. That might keep their attention on you for more than that split second they would have given it otherwise. So that's the business side of the coin. The other side is like, okay, sometimes, I need additional personalities, other vocals, other voices to tell the story I want to tell from an artistic standpoint, to really make the track I want to make. So like on my previous albums, it's like, hey, I just want, like, Kill Priest, I want to work with you, or Bronze, or Crooked Eye, or whoever, I want to work with you. Like, any of these artists that are on my previous features, it was just like, I want to work. So we just kind of like, okay, here's the canvas, let's paint. With no really forethought, you could say. Like, this is the theme of the song, But when I've had to start and stop speaking to Angel many times, that was a project where I was like, I want these specific producers to tell this theme story, and each feature is a character, and the verses are relating to the greater story. So it was more of a thought out thing where it's like, I need these additional voices, but strategically placed to tell the story I want to tell in album form, where none of my other albums were like that. So features, when done right, serve a greater purpose. A lot of artists also stay away from it because, people want to be paid and compensated up front for their work, which is the business.
Right.
Then it also dives into your royalties when you sell. It also dives into publishing splits when your publishing house is paying you out back end and things like that. Now, other artists, for whatever reason, financial or not, look, I don't need the features. This is my art. This is my project. This is what I want to do. This is the story I want to tell. And again, they suffer from potentially both sides of that as well. Without the features, unless you already have that built-in cult following or growing fan base, then okay, let's see what your numbers do. Artists can say they don't care about sales and stuff all the time, but the fact of the matter is, if you're dedicating time, money, and resources to making music and it's not making you money back, clearly you're not going to continue doing that. Like you can't. I've never paid my mortgage by giving the land, or paid rent by giving the landlord, here's a copy of my album. It didn't work that way. I had to physically hand them money.
Well, doesn't work.
So that's the thing. That's the thing. I think features are very tasteful when done right. Yes, there's great examples of overkill. A lot of artists now is just like, they got so many people that want to work with them. Like The Game has always been a classic example. You know, I would love to hear a game album that's primarily just the game, but you know, for the most part, we're getting features on every song just because he's such a fixture in West Coast rap that it's like, you know, probably works with various people every other time he's in the studio and just has all this material. Why let it sit? So a majority of those features will end up making the album just so they're not becoming stale.
Mm. I want to turn back to your EP, Toledo. You have the artist Zero Hayu on Knights of the Hip Hop Roundtable.
Zero Hear You.
Hear You. He sounds a lot, and this is not taken away from him, but because he's another great artist that he sounds like. But to me, he sounds a lot like Del.
Yes, he does. And that was the original attraction when I heard it. I'm like, because I mean, come on, when's the last time you heard someone sound like it's a name Del?
Yeah, no,
of all people, you know.
I mean, right away,
I hear a million Tupacs. I hear, you know, a lot of Migos sound alike now. But I'm like, this is cool. All right, so I'm working on his debut album slowly but surely, and because another thing, like, you know, we have to, the same conversations I'm having with you right now are what I usually have with him every time we have a conference call and stuff. You know, again, it's a brand new artist. Financially, you know, it's not like he's not sitting on a great deal of savings, let's say.
Right.
So, hey, what's the consequences of me making a purely solo album versus like the need for features and stuff? What is, you know, when we shot the record, you know, going over the allocation of how labels pay out and the benefit of label versus distributors or independents and promotions or marketing leading up to. So we have all these same conversations, but yeah, so I've been working on his debut for the past year as well.
So do you, I mean, with an artist like that who, you know, like you said, I mean, and I said, sounds like Del, right? Do you play that up when chopping him, or do you try to make him more play up his own lane?
More of his own lane, and I'm not at the shopping stage yet for his project because we're still like trying to figure out, like we're still in the strategy.
Okay.
I guess strategy for our level of where we're at with it. Like, there's when he records, you know, it's like, and I do this with a lot of my artists. Is this song album worthy? Is it mixtape or EP worthy? Is it a single worthy? Is it promo worthy? So we devise the music into certain folders so we can come back. So it's like when we're close to, say, finishing the album folder, then we go back and see, well, what's in these other folders? And that's how you build like the marketing plan around it. So say everything was done right now and it's the end of August and he was going to drop at, say, the end of November. Then now we have all these weeks, like, say, 8 to 12 weeks leading up to that between beginning of September and sometime in November. So it's like maybe we drop, you know, a free mixtape in the middle of that, like promoting the album release. Maybe you have a song come out and that's not from the album, that's from one of these other EP or single folders once a week leading up to it so we can build up your analytics, you know, your plays, your downloads, your views, your people that like a fan page, things like that. So we're almost at that stage of building the marketing and really format around it while he continues to record.
How do you talk about, you know, you're a sounding board for other artists, but then for you as an artist, who's your sounding board? I mean, who do you work with in terms of your game plan for your music?
I want to make sure I understand this question correct. So who do I work with currently for this project, or like when I want to make M80 music in general? Yeah,
like who is your M80 yourself? When talking about creating music in general.
Wow. You know, if I need advice, I'm going to approach it from this, just because to answer the question, the first thing that would come to my mind is no one. Like, that was what made me so, like, unique in the industry. You know, it's like, oh, this dude is really about handling anything and everything we need. And I'm thankful that in my past I had the prominent artist, you know, like, upbringing, because me as an artist and fan of the culture is what attracted, you know, the other bigger name artists. Like, I literally remember the first time I ever met Raekwon and Kill Priest and Law of the Dark Man and Cap and everyone, and could sit down and be like, this is what I like about this record you did, this album you did, this is what I would have done differently, da-da-da. And then been like, well, this dude really knows what he's talking about. Versus you work with some artists, like I remember every time we'd work on a Cannabis album, how quick he would dismiss any kind of constructive criticism. Like, yo, bro, I get it, you're a legend and all, and you do your thing, but it's like, maybe respect the opinion of others sometimes, especially because, a lot of people view, like, my era with Cannabis as perhaps his best. And I think that when we did the Time Flies Like Dies album, that was the best Cannabis album of all time. And that was the last record we did together. And I was cool with our relationship kind of being done at that point because I didn't think I'd ever be able to give him better than that. And I was really proud of everything we did leading up to that. So, reverting back to your question, for me as the artist, if I'm going to anyone seeking advice or not necessarily approval, but advice and guidance and things like that, I'll go to, say, a Killer Priest. I'll go to a Crooked Eye or a Bronze Nazareth. Someone that I don't talk to as much unless we're on the road or like in each other's space, but like that, I've always admired for, just their all-around character is Raekwon. So, I'm fortunate to have a melting pot of people to talk to. I need to run ideas by and business ideas and artistic ideas and things like that. But usually when it comes to the making of M80, anything is just kind of me in my own head and on go mode.
The last track on the EP is Toledo to Cali. It talks about you getting out of Glass City, traveling, making it big. What aspect of Toledo is always with you when you're traveling so much?
Self-awareness. Toledo is a very grimy place. Like, I don't want to get into it right now, but even even these past 48 hours in Toledo, it wasn't the most savory. But it's like I'm always aware of my surroundings. I know the right people to ensure that I can go wherever I need to go and my safety is intact. Things like that. So it's like that's those things I didn't consider. I moved out of Toledo when I was 13 years old. Like when you're a child, you're not thinking about things like that. When you're a grown adult and still in this business where it's like, yeah, granted, I'm successful and I've done X, Y, and Z and made this amount of money and have X, Y, and Z to show for it, I know I'm coming back to territories where it's like, yeah, congratulations for you, bro, but like, we want to rob you. Like, like we're proud of you and all, but it's like, shit ain't sweet over here for us.
Right.
So, self-awareness is the greatest thing. Like, so when I approach, like, people like, you're a very humble person. Like, some people don't think so at all, but like fans and people I meet, like, that's the whole point. It's like, I'm one way online because, like, that's me living my life. So if I'm promoting, oh, man, like, I had this album and it reached the Billboard charts, so I'm going to go buy a new car or a new piece of jewelry or put an addition on the house, like, that's me being proud of what I accomplished, one, for my clients and, in turn, for myself. When I'm on the road and stuff, though, I know it's like, I didn't make all that from being M80 the artist. So it's like, I don't think I'm any more famous as an artist, but, besides, well, there's points. Like, me accomplishing a Guinness World Record clearly makes me a more famous artist. Right. Me having toured America makes me a more famous artist than, say, the guy staying next to me that's never performed outside of his locality. So there's things you just can't deny. We can't act like that doesn't exist. But the point is, I didn't go platinum in sales as M80 the rapper. So therefore, I try not to put myself on a higher pedestal than the next person. When I worked with Nino, like, I wanted to work with him. Like, I thought he was promising upcoming artist. It didn't matter that I would say the more famous name or have more money or more resources or whatever. It's I looked at that project as like we would work well together. And I think it's for, to not kick any dirt on this dude's name. Like, same shit applies in 2019 that applied in 2012. Me being around certain MCs makes you a better MC. Like, he's great. So I felt like what I was writing for the Glass City album had to be on a certain bar or level of greatness.
Nah.
A lot of people think my best verse of all time is on Handle the Heights, a song with Canvas, Keeper, and Bronze. And it totally makes sense because, like, I wasn't going to be the weak link on the song, you know? So there's that aspect to it. And, you know, so, like, people know I'm a very appreciative person. I'm understanding. I definitely do more for others than I do for myself. So it's like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of great things where it's like, if my career had to be over tomorrow, I'm happy with what I've instilled, you know, upon the fans, upon the artists in my network, and just the game in general. So, you know, I could go out any day knowing that at least, like, I'm happy with my accomplishments on all sides of the coin. And I think that's what a lot of people really understand about me today.
One final question. Why, you just said, you know, if your career was over tomorrow, it'd be fine with you, in terms of being an MC, but for you, but would you keep writing? So I guess why do you write, or why do you write rhymes?
I hadn't written a rap for 5 or 6 years. Like, literally, LA I've found extremely uninspiring for me as the artist. That was the first thing. I would, you know, like, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was like, man, it's gonna be great. And I live on the west side, and there's beaches, and, like, anytime I can just post up and, you know, write, and it's like, okay, cool. That never happened. I got there, and work just kicked in full throttle, and, you know, anytime I picked up another client's, like, album for whoever it might be, like, you know, or concert production or booking or whatever it is, like, so I just lost sight of the whole artist side of it. Like, and the older you get, the less you care as well, because for the rappers, you know, the money is in the young. The money is allocated for the youth, to be honest.
Right.
Like, you know, the fortunate thing is a lot of these older artists. I mean, I'm 30. I'll be 38, but it's like a lot of my clients now are in their 40s and breaching their early 50s, and they may have sold more records, but the game is different now. There's more money allocated to, like, those coming up right now, you know, for shows, for sales, for streams, for everything. So I just got so entrenched in the business, and that's, like I said, that's my passion, that going back to me writing and being MA the artist was, like, literally, it's like, okay, you know, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Right.
And like I said, I had so many hiccups working on what was supposed to be my sixth solo album, Speak of the Angel, because I tried to really make it like a concept project, and just like, you know, when you have the time to work for yourself, like, you know, I could sit down and write a song for myself, and you can do that on your own time. That's great. But when you start working on stuff that involves all these additional personalities, and no one's going to work on your time schedule, you know, only you are on your time. That's one of the drawbacks. And then there was my book, which people ask me about all the time. And that was like, okay, well, I'm done writing raps, but I'm going to write this first book. And the book's called Who's Your A&R? And I'm 3, 4, or 5 chapters in. And it's like, okay, I got the table of contents, so I know what I want to work on every week, every month, whatever. And I have my little, like, you know, here's my schedule. Like, I'm going to finish the 60-Second Assassin chapter. I'm going to finish the Cannabis versus Disaster Battle chapter. That is a hard thing to say 5 times. Cannabis versus Disaster Battle chapter. That's so, you know, and I'm knocking that out. But then, again, more artists, more client works are coming across the table. So then the book takes the back seat. And now the crazy thing about the book taking the back seat is, like, when I'm writing the book in 2014 and say, okay, me and Razcast don't have the greatest relationship in the world, and I'm writing this chapter a certain way, but now me and him are working together, and I call each other and can hang out and drink and get money together and everything, you know, everything's copacetic. That's a good thing, because I'd always want to see a story end up on a positive note. Like, but if I would have finished that chapter in 2014, one of us was going to die. You know, like, that's where that was going. Wow. But now in 2019, it's like, okay, now I need to read, like, you know, so I'm glad that there's been those kind of, not necessarily setbacks, but at least time constraints on how I'm handling certain works. You know, I do want to finish the book in 2020, you know, and just get done with that. But, you know, I was never, I guess, in my feelings about not getting getting back to the artistry as quick as I would have wanted to, because I found so much joy and so much, just accomplishment in working as an A&R and an admin and a PR and radio relations and an executive producer, on the business side of things. And, most notably the Ghostface Killer album we did last year, which absolutely killed all expectations. For RZA to tell me how impressed he is with what I did with that project, that's for awesome. Ghostface after the fact, now to be like, man, you killed that. I come to the board with my vision. This is what I want to do, and they weren't with it at first. Like a Ghostface Big Ghost album, and this is the money that's going to be made, and this is how we're going to do this. I'm completely going to kill Ghostface's the album he's got coming out in a couple weeks. His sales are going to be nowhere in comparison to what we did with the Ghostface project. So it's an interesting thing. I feel good knowing we were so successful with it. And he's like, "How you going to tell me my shit ain't going to sell?" So, and, I know you recently did the interview with Tech N9ne, and we haven't touched upon anything Tech N9ne, but man, talk about just a quality human being, and I've been glad to be able to render any and all assistance I have to their camp. I was booking Tech N9ne. That our relationship started with me bringing him to Indianapolis. But when I was producing concerts for the longest time, there was this rumor that he was banned, like Wu-Tang Clan and Rage Against the Machine, they're banned, so everyone said Tech N9ne fell in this category. And I finally got to meet him when I was in Chicago with, I think, members of Wu-Tang for Rock the Bells, one of the regional ones. And he's like, "No, that's just a rumor. No one's ever been, just man enough to bring me." I'm like, "Oh, we're making this happen now." I swapped all the information, and every time Tech N9ne's come to Indy for the past 8-9 years was, whole Toledo production. Until about last year when I stopped, I just kind of removed myself from all the Midwest production work at the advisement of Live Nation, and really just focused on my whereabouts in California and works I can do there. But Tech is phenomenal. Strange Music team phenomenal. I love all the work I get to do with E40. His new project just dropped, Practice Makes Paper, and few of those tracks and the album itself are actually up for Grammy consideration. So, right. Big things, man.
Real quick, what is your favorite thing about? I got to see Tech N9ne perform when I was in North Carolina, thanks to you. So he's an incredible artist to watch live. What did you? I was just impressed that what is one of the what makes him such an amazing live performer?
Because he's been around for so long, he's really he's mastered the art of the live show. Especially Red and Meth are my favorite ever live performers, from their energy, from the incorporation of their DJs, the music. They've been all around the best live show. Busta Rhymes and Cliffstar had that dynamic as well. But the difference between Tech N9ne's live show and, say, someone like Busta Rhymes or Red and Meth is there's more of a visual component. There's more of a wow factor to it because of the hybrid hyper spit lyrics and the fact that you're like, well, this dude is really doing it. It's crazy. So a lot of times like Red and Meth, there's no heavy visual component to the show. There's no pyrotechnics. There's no they go and do their show. It's hip hop. Boom, keep it moving. Tech N9ne has incorporated more of the element of it's an audio, it's a visual experience. When I go on the road, I bring my whole camp with me and big up my label, and so it takes nothing away from Red and Meth. That's the greatest live show I've ever seen because it's for performers. But they're putting more money in their pocket at the end of the day. When the Tech N9ne does a show, more of the money that would go to his pocket is going to sustain, here's these TV screens and here's these pyrotechnics and here's that. They're putting more money into the production of the event. And, a lot of upcoming artists that are doing shows clearly, don't have that what's the word I'm looking for? Don't have that, the ability to do that. If you're getting $500 a show, or $300 or $1,000, whatever you're getting, clearly that money is just straight going to the pocket. Like, I think one time I remember Wu-Tang at a little show had brought out like a mist machine or a bubble machine, and I'm like, all right, you don't need that, bro. That's just laughable. But, so that's the best part of the Tech N9ne show is it's really a all-out experience. And I love when he plays Speed 'em. Yeah. It goes from Worldwide Choppers to Speed 'em, and just I was there for the making of that. When they were really biting their nails at the last minute to see if Eminem was turning his verse in and things like that. So, that's my favorite part of the Tech N9ne show. And his fan base is just, as loyal as they come, and it's great. And it's amazing how it trickles over to the other artists on Strange Music. Like the people that, hey, Tech, we love you so much. Where we're going to buy the Sescrew album. We're going to buy the CB Stone record. We're going to buy you name it. And that's great. That's really great. Like, there's not a lot of labels that have it like that. Like, you watch as a million people buy a Kendrick Lamar record on, say, Top Dog Entertainment, but, like, 20,000 people get app sold. So clearly It's not translating the same way as far as brand loyalty and artist loyalty as it does on the Strange Music Camp.
So for you, in terms of the Toledo EP, what happens next? I mean, are you touring for it? Are you doing live shows? Are you, are you just kind of pushing it?
I would like to finish the third installment of the Academy, which is not me on the artist side. It's another A&R project where it's like promoting all new music from everyone I'm working with in this current state of hip hop. And then depending on, we got projects coming out from like Crooked Eye and Razcast and Bronze and Kill Priest and Bishop Lamont all in the next 180 calendar days. So it's like, depending on how all those go and how my calendar opens up, I definitely want to open up to Almighty 3, which would feature just like, the first one had its lineup, the second one had its lineup. Third one would have its new lineup of artists and producers and things like that. So that would be my next move from MA to the artist.
New EP coming out soon. What date is that?
What date is Toledo EP coming?
Yes.
August 30th.
August 30th?
This coming Friday.
This Friday, M80, on the road, driving. The Toledo EP is coming out August 30th. Damn, thank you so much, man, for doing this again on the Library with Tim Einenkel.
Thank you, Tim. Of course, I appreciate you.
Cool. So
let them know. Toledo8god.com is where you can get the record, physicals. We got some T-shirts left, things like that. But of course, on the 30th, it'll be on all your digital carriers, all your streaming carriers. So digest the music however you can.
Okay.
Back in the house when ready to rock.
I'm back up in the house, more 90s than the statement is. Show up with a gang of cassette tapes and mini discs. I write at 16 as crazy as I'm 80 is. Talk about old shit like cross colors and baby's kids. Old man rap, boom bap, 90s jaws. Spit a verse and tell the neighbors' kids to get off the lawn. Back up in the residence, this rhyme is evidence. I left a signature with my impressive pen.